that I was too stressed and needed to take a break, as I was imagining. I can't explain either. I was in elementary school, 6th grade. I was outside going to our PE classes with my female friend in tow, when I wanted to get inside this building. I saw in front of me some kind of small white cloud passing by. As weird as it sounds, it was flying by really fast. I told my friend, and she also saw it, but we didn't talk about it again until later. I remember I saw this kind of cloud in my young age again. I don't remember where it was, but I remember I saw this cloud twice. I believe that we were living in a dimension where we can't see everything. For example, that cats and dogs can see things we cannot. Perhaps that cloud was from somewhere where we weren't supposed to see. I tried finding information on Google regarding both incidences. Found nothing. There is one final entry. When I was a child, I slept next to my mother. One night, someone came and put my arm up, which hurt me, so I screamed. The person ran away, and my mum asked me what happened. She told me I shouldn't be scared, that it was my dad. Until today, I can't believe this. When asking my parents, they tell me it was my dad who came and tried to change my bad sleeping position. I can't believe this, because why would he run away when I started to scream and cry? He's not like that. Not to mention the person or thing I saw looked scary. It was dark, and he was pitch black looking, and I could only see his eyes. All I could see was a silhouette. Believe me or not, since then I've had bad dreams of this person every night when I fall asleep on my left side. I remember my mum told me once when we were sleeping on our left side that we have bad dreams. Maybe she was joking, but it left a big impact on me. Every night, I tried to make sure I didn't sleep on my left side so that I wouldn't see that person again. I saw him several years later, with my family in the living.
I'm not born.
So I live in rural Australia, and this happened quite a few years ago, but is a story worth telling. The layout of our property consisted of a fairly standard 4-bedroom house and a massive shed that my dad used to keep all his furniture, machinery and tools in. This shed was around 100 meters from the house and had those lights that takes a while to warm up before lighting up properly. So I was around 17 at the time. It was the middle of winter and it was getting dark at around 6 p.m. I was just finishing up working on my car in the driveway when from the work shed I hear my mum in a panic scream for help. I sprinted up to the shed, the yelling continuing the whole time. I assumed she had walked into the shed for something, and instead of bothering with waiting for the lights, she walked in the dark and tripped on something. I ran into the shed and hit the lights, grabbing a torch, because it was pitch black inside. This closed the shed. I heard my mum yell my name once more clearly, in pain and coming from the far side of the shed. I started walking my way back to the shed, yelling to my mum, but not getting any replies. When I get about halfway, my dad sticks his head in the door and asks what I'm yelling about. I'm telling him about mum being in trouble and he pauses and quickly tells me to get out of the shed and that mum is fine. Absolutely and completely confused, I walk back to the door of the shed, and both of us walk back to the house. I'm shaken, and I keep telling him I swear Mum is hurt in the shed. When we get back to the house, Mum walks out the front door drying her hair with a towel after getting out the shower. I didn't know how to react. I explained to both of them what happened, and they both brush it off, saying it was weird, but that I probably imagined it. That weekend, my older sister, who moved out 2 years before this event, came home for a visit. Sitting on the grass beside the house and the shed, I told her what happened, and she went white, and told me that a few years before she moved out, the exact same thing happened to her when she got home from work one night. Except Mum called my sister's phone when she was in the shed, wanting to know what she wanted for dinner. My sister never told a soul about her experience, only refused to ever go into the shed again. We both wondered what we would have found if we'd have gone to the back where the voice came from. I'm from a very small, very rural town with around 200 people, 25 miles from the nearest bigger town. Somehow, we have an elementary school, and when I was going there, it was K-8. The entire time I went to school there, I felt as if I were being watched. Going to the high school in the next town solidified that something was off about that building, as the feeling went away entirely. Everything that happened was specifically centered around the girls' bathroom at the gym. I'm just going to kind of list these by what grade they happened to me in. While I was in 1st and 2nd grade, handprints would appear on the mirror in the girls' bathroom. Now obviously kids' handprints, but higher up than any of us in the class could reach. No one would own up to it, but it could be explained as an older kid, not wanting to get in trouble for making a mess. As far as I remember, however, some of them would appear first thing in the morning, before any kids had arrived and after the bathrooms had been cleaned the previous evening. Yet once I sat down on the toilet, I saw shoes in the next stall next to mine, and got chills down my spine. I left the bathroom as quickly as I could. I should also mention that the stall I was in, I saw shoes, and got my first cell phone. The computer lab is separate from the school, and its porch was a common hangout spot for kids in town after school and during the summer. We were screwing around with the negative setting on my new phone, taking pictures in the back of the school. The back door is right next to the entrance to the previously mentioned corner of the gym. The doors have windows in the top half, and in one of the pictures there was an obvious head in the corner of the windows. In the pictures taken before and after, there was nothing there. Not sure if it had anything to do with the negative setting, but I'm not sure we would have noticed it without it. No one was in the building. It was probably around July, but I broke that phone beyond retrieving them. In 8th grade, I finally asked my mum if she thought the school could be haunted, as she is not from around here. She suggested that I ask my aunt, who has lived here all her life. I asked my aunt straight up if she thought the school was haunted, and immediately said, "Well, you know your cousin died in there, right?" I told her I'd heard a story of a girl who collapsed and died during PE a long time ago. In the corner of the gym, there were a few weird things that happened. My aunt told me that was my cousin Lisa. She was 11 when she died of a heart condition no one was aware of. My aunt was 17 at the time, and I described the girl I saw in the bathroom years before. Tall, with shoulder-length, thick, straight hair. According to my aunt, that described her almost perfectly. It explained, at least to me, why I had seen these things throughout the years, and only ever in the girls' bathroom at the gym. Why I had felt like I was being watched, but never in a malevolent way. Why I felt an immense sense of relief upon going to high school, because I didn't have to look over my shoulder all the time and fear I would see something that wasn't meant to be there. It gave me some closure, some explanation, and made me less fearful of the school. I still get a chill down my spine when I go in though. I live in Eastern Europe, more exactly in Romania. You may have heard about those gypsy witches that live in my country. Most of them are just pretending to be something they're not. This, however, is the story of a real witch. My grandmother used to live in the same village with a witch. I don't know if the witch was a gypsy or Romanian, but it doesn't really matter. She lived for so many years that no one knew her age. This woman claimed to be a witch, and she had also claimed that she had this demon who served her. She used to talk about the way she sold her soul one night in the forest while performing a ritual. In return, she gained powers and the help of a demon. She said that she couldn't die until she convinced someone to take full charge and responsibility of her duty as a witch and sell his or her soul to the darkness as well. She, I believe, had 3 daughters, but people said that their mother's behavior scared them away. They moved to Bucharest and never returned to the village. Now, you will say that she was most likely a crazy old woman, but no. A lot of people heard weird noises coming from her attic, and she agreed that the sounds were made by her slave demon. People, even though afraid, asked her to solve their problems and gave her money for doing so. No one ever complained about her work. No one. Everything was put in place no matter how difficult the task was. People witnessed a lot of hard work getting done overnight in her yard and garden. Things that she wasn't able to do alone. My grandmother met a woman on her way to work. The woman asked my grandmother about the witch. She wanted to know where the witch lived. My grandma gave indications and then asked her why she was going to go see her. She said that a thief broke into her house and stole her savings, and she wanted her money back. The next day my grandmother met the woman again. She carried a bag, and my grandma asked her what happened. She said that she went to the witch and received the promise that she would be able to find the money on the table when she returned home. The witch asked in advance for half the money. The woman agreed. It was better than nothing, and things happened exactly as the witch foretold. And she carried the promised money in the bag on the way to the witch's house. Another story is that a woman fell in love with a married man. She went to the witch and told her that she wanted that man. She didn't have access to the house and slept on the wooden storage house. The farm itself was like this. There was a barbed wire gate that you manually had to move in the entrance, and in front of it was an open empty field with one of those outside washrooms to the right. Passing by it, there was a small group of trees, and then the place where we slept. Passing that was the actual house to the left, and then the forest. In the forest entrance there was a tree with a ripped plastic bag tied to its branches, meaning the bag had been tied there for a while. It was still small, and people used to do that here to make marks or something. And right in front of it, there was a mound. Someone buried something there. I moved there with 4 dogs, plus the dog that already lived there that we took care of. Our routine was to wake up at 5 a.m. to go to the city, so I could go to school and my parents could go to work. The first night we stayed there, I noticed my room was the only one in the entire house that didn't have a lock, and I couldn't sleep because of the weird feeling I had, and I stayed up all night and slept on my way to school. Then things got weirder. The door started opening at night. I dismissed it as the wind. Cliché, I know, but it became more frequent and violent. Then, still on the first week, I saw it. It was a black humanoid figure with a white face. It was like the white face had empty sockets, and instead of a mouth, just an empty cavity in its face. It stood on my door entrance staring at me. I decided I would not sleep while, so I just kept staring at it to convince myself my mind was playing tricks on me. Then, some nights later, it became impossible to pretend, because it started moving and doing things. It entered my room, tapped on the window. It was a metal window that was right beside my bed, and slightly moved things and kept being a general creep. Whenever I shone light on it, it disappeared, but the eerie feeling persisted. I started keeping a flashlight in my room and playing music to keep myself calm and awake. Eventually I started falling asleep in some days, and in those days I would wake up with headaches and the feeling my eyes had been pushed into my skull. Every time I awoke, it was in pain. My parents eventually got security cameras because while we were in the city, some people entered the place to go fishing, as there was a shortcut to the neighboring farm lake through our forest. This is an important detail. Then one day my aunt went to visit. She had some weird superstitions and said the place had gold buried in it for some reason. She went to the forest and saw the mound trespasser.
Mortis Media.
When most people think about a haunted place, they imagine a house or abandoned building. But I believe that whole areas can be hotspots for paranormal activity. For me, it would be the land lying to the east of Snowflake, Arizona, and west of Concho, Arizona. Along the old Concho Highway, the landscape is that of red rock sandstone ridges and red sand. Ancient Anasazi ruins are numerous along the bluffs. Echoes of time when land wasn't so arid and dry. Gnarled and twisted cedars dot the land along the large dry washes, where sparse groves of cottonwoods grow. My grandparents owned 80 acres of land, about 20 miles east of Snowflake. The locals in Snowflake refer to this area as Out East. My grandparents' mobile home sat on top of a slow-rising hill. About a mile south at the bottom of the hill, my aunt and uncle had built a 3-level home where they lived with their 2 sons and 2 daughters. The house was a neat layout. From the front, it only looked 2 stories, but at the back, due to the slope of the hill, the basement was visible. A large wooden deck surrounded the middle section of the home. The home faced the west, and to the east, the hill slowly descended into a wash. From the back deck, there were views of the Zuni Holy Mountain and Little Colorado River Valley near St. John's, Arizona. This story is the account of the terrifying experience my older cousin Sam endured in the summer of 1991. It was late June. Sam was 17. While most people his age were enjoying their summer vacation, Sam was not. He had attended a huge graduation party and gotten drunk as a skunk. Unfortunately for him, the sheriff's department had also attended the party, and he had received an underage consumption ticket, probation, a severe tongue lashing, and a summer grounding. His mum even took the keys to his pickup he had worked all last summer to buy. There he was, stuck in the middle of the boonies. He had kept pretty busy though, helping out our grandparents who lived up on the hill. After coming home in the late afternoon, he noticed that their neighbor Jeff, from about 5 miles to the west, had stopped to visit with his dad, Bill. Jeff was one of those hippie guys. He was cool and all, but everyone suspected he probably partook in a little too much LSD in the 70s. Jeff had a place on top of the bluff, which ran adjacent to Stoddard's house, Bill and Jeff were on the porch bullshitting when Sam walked up. He said hello to Jeff, and Jeff asked him if Sam would want to help him with a project on his property. He said he'd pay him a couple of $100 for a week or two's worth of work, and Sam agreed. Some party money for when his parents left town next week for their trip to Nebraska with our grandparents. The next morning, Bill gave Sam his keys back so that he could drive over to Jeff's place. When he arrived, Jeff was loading up shovels and equipment into his truck. Sam in the hole, reckoned the roof would collapse now. Jeff descended the ladder with a flashlight. Holy shit, he heard Jeff exclaim. He called to Sam, who slowly made his way over. Bring the camera and come down. Sam felt terror grip him. He really didn't want to go back down there, but he also didn't want Jeff to think he was a chicken shit either. He grabbed the camera and descended into the black pit. At first he couldn't see anything. It's black, very black. And then he saw the beam of Jeff's flashlight, shining on a large corrugated pot. Even with the sunlight coming down the opening, it wasn't able to penetrate the darkness. Finally it dawned upon Sam that the walls and floors were black. The air was stale, and it smelled strongly of soot. Jeff was excitedly moving around the room to see all the treasures it held. A long roll of thunder boomed in the distance. "Start taking pictures," Jeff exclaimed, annoyed that Sam was just standing there. "Make sure the flash is on." Sam began to snap photos. The flash illuminated the room briefly, and after about the third photo, Sam caught a glimpse of something that made him jump. A human skull. Looking over there didn't hear him. He snapped another photo just to be sure. Yup, definitely a skull, but he still didn't get heard. So Sam said louder, "Jeff, there's a skull." "What? Oh yeah, a skull. There's a few of them down here. Looks like there was a fire in this room." He kicked one across the room towards Sam, and Sam jumped. "What the hell, man?" Sam said, his fear turning into anger. "Dude, this isn't right. You shouldn't be messing with bodies. We need to call the cops or something." Jeff laughed. "Call the cops? And tell them what? We found a bunch of 1,000-year-old dead Indians?" Sam was now really pissed. "Listen, Jeff, if you want to mess around with this stuff, be my guest. I'm done. There's something bad about this place and I'm leaving." Again, Jeff laughed. "You're scared of a bunch of bones? Whatever, man, go. I'm not paying your ass to be a crybaby." Sam tossed Jeff's camera to the ground and climbed up the ladder, and Jeff started cussing at the broken camera. Sam didn't care, though he started walking back to Jeff's house, where his truck was parked. The wind was blowing pretty hard now. Black clouds covered the sun. Sam now saw flashes of lightning, along with the thunder. When he arrived home, he remembered that my aunt and uncle had left along with his sisters on their trip to Nebraska. His older brother Zach was also gone at work at Pizza Hut for the evening. He was tired. He lay down on the couch and fell asleep, trying not to think about the black room full of bones. A loud crack of thunder shook the house and jolted Sam awake. The house was dark. He fumbled his way to the light switch and flipped it on. Nothing. A flash of lightning illuminated the room. Damn, the storm must have knocked the power out. The wind was howling outside. He fumbled around in the closet until he found the lantern and lit it. He still felt extremely creeped out, so he went up to his bedroom where he had a joint stashed. He figured if he smoked it, it would help with his nerves. His bedroom faces the driveway. He opens up his window and goes to light the joint. A flash of
Can a psychic octopus really predict World Cup results? Say yeah, nah, Qatar, and yes to Sportsbet, the easiest place to bet on the World Cup. Oh, an eight-legger, mate. Respect.
A flash of lightning, and something darts across the driveway, and his heart skips a beat. The dogs start barking. He puts down the joint and closes the window. He feels terror gnawing at his gut. What the hell was that? He goes downstairs as a precaution and locks the front sliding door. He hears heavy footsteps running across the porch. Now he goes into full-on panic mode. Shit. The side door. He bolts across the living room and trips over a chair. The dogs are freaking out, growling and barking. He catches a glimpse of something run by the living room window, illuminated by the flash of lightning. He gets to the door, fumbling at the lock. Whatever is outside has a hold of the knob. It starts to turn. He slams the deadbolt. Locked. Shit. The basement sliding glass door. He bolts down the stairs. He makes it to the door, finding it already locked. Phew. Another lightning bolt. In the flash, he sees the silhouette of what he thinks is a man, covered with fur, with a coyote skin draped over his head. Red eyes shining from the darkness where his face should be, standing at the edge of the yard. It's very tall. Looking into those red shining eyes, his breath caught in his throat. Panic wells up in him. Scrabbling, he falls backwards, knocking his head on a table. Crying, he gets up to his feet and bolts upstairs to the phone. Call 911. Call 911. His heart is hammering into his brain. He picks up the phone. Nothing. A large thud, coming from the roof, shakes him from his despair. The thing is on the roof. Shit. Gun. Gun. That comes to mind. He bolts to his parents' bedroom, where they keep a shotgun in the closet. The dogs bound in after him. It begins to start pouring rain. He can still hear the footsteps on the roof. He locks the door behind him. He's going into the closet, and the dogs follow him. He finds the shotgun, his hands shaking like crazy, and he loads it. The dogs are quiet. He can't hear anything coming from the roof anymore. Where the hell is it? In the house. He sits in the closet and waits. The dogs huddled around him. What seems like an hour passes, and nothing but the distant boom of thunder as the storm marches on. He begins to calm down a bit in shock. At this point, the storm has rolled to the north. Suddenly he hears the door rattling. Bang, bang. It's beating on the door. Boom. The shotgun goes off, blowing a hole in the closet ceiling, and someone screaming. Don't shoot! He hears his brother Zach scream. Tears run down Sam's face. He drops the gun and runs to the door, unlocking it, almost knocking over his brother. Zach is pissed. What the hell, man? Why are you shooting at me? Sam is in a daze. The story of what happened earlier in that day, and this evening, spews out of him. Zach listens, not saying a word. At the end, what Zach said, there were red mud, bare footprints around the house. It wasn't him. He showed Zach his shoes, bare feet, and that the prints were way larger than his feet. David agreed. I bet it was Jeff, Zach concluded. He probably came over to mess with you because he's pissed you quit and busted his camera. He knew you were freaked out, so he thought he'd mess with you. Sam wasn't sure, but it made him feel slightly better. Yeah, he tells himself. Jeff, that asshole. I must not have got the latch to the sliding door closed. The noise on the roof must have been the wind blowing shingles off the roof. it began to all make sense. He and Zach drank a couple of beers that their dad had left in the fridge. They cleaned the mud to the best of their abilities, and after getting buzzed, they decided that they were going to go over in the morning and confront Jeff. Zach says he needed to pay Sam an extra since they now needed to rent a carpet shampooer to clean the mess that Jeff made. Finally, they decide to go into town. One of their friends is throwing a party. I don't think either one of them wanted to stay out there. The party is one that's out in the boonies, with a big bonfire. There are about 20 teens there. Sam is having a hard time enjoying the party. He keeps feeling like something is watching him. The beer isn't tasting good, and he's not really socializing with his friends. They ask him what's wrong, but he just says he's tired. The full moon is rising to the east, casting its eerie light in the sandstone bluffs and cedars. Sam gazes past the firelight and catches a glimpse of something moving just out of the reach of the firelight. It moves behind a bush. Must be someone peeing, he thinks to himself, but his gut is disagreeing. Suddenly a strange, throaty howl pierces the night. Sam jumps. He looks around, but no one else seems to have heard anything. They continue laughing and talking. He now hears heaving footprints behind him. He turns to see a large figure of a man standing just outside the firelight. He is paralyzed with fear. The man's face is hidden in shadow, but Sam can feel his eyes piercing him. He closes his eyes and starts whispering a prayer under his breath. When he has the courage to open his eyes, the man is gone. He's pretty freaked out at this point, and just wants to get out of there, and he tells Zach he's going home. Zach decides to stay. Sam doesn't really want to go home, and he also doesn't want to go back to the party. Mind racing, he heads down east to the old Concho Highway. Surely, he thinks to himself, he is just freaking himself out. Jeff came over and scared him, and that person at the party was probably just someone who was out there peeing. Yeah, makes sense. He notices something run across town, thinking it must have been a deer. Crash! Something hits the back of his truck, jerking it forward. What the hell? He slams on the brakes, looking in the rearview mirror. He catches a glimpse of shining eyes. He is in full panic mode. He stops on the gas. Sheer terror engulfs him. Too afraid to look back, he sees something out of the corner of his eye. He turns to look, and sees a man running next to the truck. He looks at the speed. 70. He looks again, and now the coyote-type creature is looking at him. At first his face is shrouded in blackness, and then he said it transformed before his eyes. The only way he could describe it was that of a demon. Large red eyes, and a twisted smile showing long, sharp teeth. It threw back its head and laughed. It took a long clawed hand and scratched along the truck as it sped past and disappeared into the darkness. So this is what I remember. We lived about 2 hours away from Snowflake. I'm 7 years old in my bed. At 3 a.m., our family is awakened by someone pounding on the door. Of course, this wakes up everyone, including us kids, as we watch as my dad opens the door to see my cousin Sam. He's white as a ghost, shaking and crying. My parents pretty damn startled, trying to figure out what the hell is going on. He starts babbling about demons chasing him, and my mum sends us back to bed. The next day, my dad calls a Navajo friend, and they take him somewhere near Saunders to see a medicine man. After they return, Sam stayed with us until his parents returned from Nebraska. When he finally goes home, he never sees anything again. Years later, when I was older, and we became closer, I asked him what happened that night, the one that he'd shown up at the house. and he reluctantly told me.
Do you still have
I
that
later
water?
asked my
Yeah,
parents
I
about
do.
it,
Cool.
and they confirmed
What
the
about
same
nugs?
story he had
No,
told them,
I'm out nugs.
minus
All good.
one final
Here's a
part.
couple more nugs.
So the morning that Sam showed up
Here's
at
a
our
joint and a
house,
smoke.
Zach and his older brother went to Jeff's house to
So a
collect
joint
Sam's
now,
money.
then a smoke.
When he
Done with
got
that?
there,
Yep.
Jeff wasn't there. The door to the house was wide open. The inside was trashed. Furniture was overturned and broken. Jeff ended up being gone for about 6 months. Everyone wondered where he had gone to. No one really knew anything about his family, just that they were from the Midwest. At one point, my grandma filed a missing persons report with the sheriff's office, but later the sheriff informed her that Jeff was back east. When he does finally return, he is gaunt and looks like he's aged about 20 years. Everyone wonders if it was the drugs. Fast forward to 5 or 6 years. My grandparents invite Jeff to Thanksgiving at their home. Sam has graduated and long since moved away, but he is up for Thanksgiving. Jeff asks Sam to come to his truck because he has something to show him. Sam agrees. Jeff hands him a stack of photos. They are the pictures they had taken while excavating the ruins. Sam flicks through, not really wanting to think of what happened back then. In the last few years, he convinced himself it was just a bunch of coincidences, and he freaked himself out over them. Jeff unhappily tells Sam to look at the pictures closer. Sam does. At first, he doesn't notice anything, but then he notices in the shadows on the picture, there are figures, small, twisted, and evil, with the same face of the demon that was chasing him. Jeff apologizes to Sam, but he says that he had to make sure he wasn't crazy. He tells Sam that in the 6 months he was gone, he was hunted by this thing. It followed him all the way to Oklahoma. Finally, he sought the help of a medicine man. He returned the artifacts back to fill the ruin, and Sam said he didn't know what happened to the photos, and he didn't want to know. I am 23 now, and the time that this occurred was my first summer out of high school. And me and my 3 friends, fresh off their freshman year of college, decided to live together. One of my friends, my best friend for years, Earl, had a long-time girlfriend whose father owned the property. It was a decently sized plot of land with several old cabins on it, their house, which was large and out in the back of the woods, and a few other scattered buildings. I think it used to be a campground before he bought it to live on it and run his business out of it. We live in southern Maine, and the property is heavily wooded. Pine Tree State for the win. The house that we lived in was at the very front of the property, right on the road. The owner's house was at the very rear and could only be accessed by a dirt road with 2 ditches on the side. A 1-minute walk towards the woods from our front house was a small little cabin across a clearing, and it was furnished and powered. In the house was me, Earl, John, and Chuck. We all had some different girls and girlfriend pals and partied through the summer. We would frequently come here to the cabin and the owner's house before moving in. Anyway, enough with the scene setting. Some of this story is from word of mouth from the others living in the home, but we have all been friends a long time, and I trust them implicitly, and I witnessed enough myself to know that this all lined up. So, the first encounter was at the very beginning of summer, before we even moved in. It was evening and dark, and everyone was...
The world of sport is a fickle, ever-changing beast, but you'll be ready. Download the app and see for yourself why Bet365 is the world's favorite online betting brand.
Gamble responsibly.
It was evening and dark, and everyone was at the owner's house watching a movie. As I slowly drive my car down the dirt path to the owner's, something white and large in size ran in front of my car. it was a blur. It was too fast to really catch what it was. But being in the woods, I assumed it was some kind of albino fox. I shrugged it off and made my way to the house. A week later, we were all situated and moved into the front home by the street, and things were great. I'll admit the front area of the property was spooky, despite being the most open and least wooded. The owner's mother had lived in our house and died years ago. We could see an old statue of Mother Mary off in the woods that was always kind of sketchy. Across the street was a small independent tire shop with a small dirt lot. Only thing in the house when we moved in was some kind of antique cheetah statue, which appeared to be from the 60s, tall and skinny in a sitting position, and went up to mid-waist. So we put it in the corner of the hallway. Thought it was neat.